Welcome to the Second to None podcast. Before we begin, we want to remind you to subscribe to this podcast, share with your friends, and leave a review so we can keep growing this movement. Today, we're bringing you something historic, the very first flagship report from EquiThink, a Texas new think tank dedicated to equity, policy, and cultural empowerment in Texas, starting right here in San Antonio. This report is called The State of San Antonio's Underserved Communities 2025. It's a deep dive into the challenges facing Black and Latino neighborhoods across the city, from political representation to business opportunity, from media coverage to cultural preservation. But more importantly, it's a roadmap for solutions. San Antonio is one of the fastest-growing cities in America. It's rich in culture, history, and resilience. Yet for too many residents, especially in historically Black and Latino communities, the growth has not been shared equally. Opportunities are shrinking while displacement is rising, and the voices of those most affected often go unheard. That's where EquiThink steps in. Their mission is simple: to research, to amplify, and to act. We gather data, listen to the community, and turn those insights into policy solutions that can't be ignored. In this episode, we're going to walk you through our full report, section by section, page by page. You'll hear the numbers, but you'll also hear the stories behind them. You'll hear why San Antonio's underserved communities matter, and how equity isn't just about fairness, it's the strategy for the city's future prosperity. So let's dive in. Before we begin, make sure you hit that subscribe button, share this episode with a friend, and leave a review. That support helps us grow this work, and more importantly, it helps amplify the voices of underserved communities across Texas. Today's episode is not just another discussion. It's history in the making. We are going to take you through the very first flagship report from EquiThink, Texas' new think tank dedicated to equity, policy, and cultural empowerment in Texas. The title of this report is The State of San Antonio's Underserved Communities 2025. This is more than an idea. It's a roadmap. It's a set of ideas and actions meant to push San Antonio forward, not for a select few, not just for neighborhoods that have already been given investment and attention, but for the communities that have carried the weight of this city without ever being given their fair share. Now, let's start with this. Why San Antonio? San Antonio is not only one of the fastest growing cities in the United States, it's also a majority-minority city. Black, Latino, and immigrant communities form the backbone of this city's identity. The culture, the food, the music, the faith, the neighborhoods. All of these have been built and enriched by communities who are often underserved when it comes to opportunity, access, and representation. And here lies the paradox. The very communities that make San Antonio vibrant are also the ones who face systemic barriers every single day. Whether it's the East Side, with its long history of Black cultural contributions, or Latino neighborhoods on the South and West Side that have been central to the city's growth, these places face disparities in education, in business investment, in health outcomes, in political power, and in media representation. So, EquiThink asked one question: what would it take to level the playing field? This report, The State of San Antonio's Underserved Communities 2025, answers that question in 4 parts: politics, business, media, and culture. We believe those are the 4 pillars where change must happen if equity is to be more than a slogan. Now, let's walk through the executive summary, the heart of this report, which outlines their key findings and our recommendations. Political representation and power. Let's start with politics. Representation matters. Decision-making matters. Power matters. Even though San Antonio is a majority Black and Latino city, the leadership across City Hall, the county courthouse, and even the State House does not fully reflect that reality. Our research shows that voter turnout is significantly lower in districts with high Black and Latino populations. In the 2022 municipal elections, turnout in some East Side districts was less than half of turnout in wealthier, whiter districts on the North Side. That is not because people don't care. It's because structural barriers, from district lines that dilute minority voting power, to limited investment in civic education, to mistrust of political systems, keep participation low. Representation also extends beyond elections. Boards, commissions, and city task forces often lack diverse voices. When decisions about economic development, policing, housing, and zoning are being made, underserved communities are too often absent from the table. Our recommendation is threefold. First, create a San Antonio minority leadership pipeline. This would be a structured program to mentor young Black and Latino leaders, prepare them for public office, and connect them with resources to run for school boards, city council, and even the state legislature. Second, establish a city equity office. This office would track representation, evaluate city policies for fairness, and ensure equity is baked into every city budget and decision. And third, expand civic education and voter access programs with a special focus on underserved districts. That means partnering with schools, churches, barbershops, and community centers, the real hubs of civic life, to empower people to vote and to lead. Economic opportunity and business equity. Next, let's talk about economics, wealth, business, and opportunity. San Antonio is full of entrepreneurs. Black and Latino-owned businesses line our streets, fuel our neighborhoods, and keep our culture alive. And yet, despite making up more than 40% of the city's businesses, minority-owned firms receive less than 10% of city contracts. Think about that. Nearly half the businesses in the city, but only a sliver of the public contracts that could help them grow and create jobs. Access to capital is another barrier. Many minority entrepreneurs report being turned down by banks, denied loans, or given less favorable terms than their white counterparts. Without fair financing, dreams stall before they ever get off the ground. And then there's gentrification. Entire neighborhoods are changing overnight. Legacy businesses, often owned by Black and Latino families for generations, are being priced out of the very communities they built. Our recommendations here are bold but necessary. First, launch a community business fund, a pool of resources dedicated specifically to Black and minority entrepreneurs. This fund would provide microloans, grants, and investment opportunities tailored to the needs of underserved communities. Second, reform the city's procurement system. We need mandatory equity requirements so that city contracts are distributed fairly to minority-owned firms. And third, explore cooperative ownership models and land trusts. These models allow communities to pool resources, resist displacement, and build generational wealth in neighborhoods under pressure from gentrification. Economic equity is not just good for minority communities. It strengthens the entire city. When underserved businesses thrive, jobs are created, neighborhoods stabilize, and wealth circulates locally. Now, let's talk about media. Media shapes perception. Media tells the story of who we are as a city. And yet, underserved communities are too often misrepresented or simply not represented at all in San Antonio's news and entertainment landscape. Coverage of minority neighborhoods is frequently limited to crime stories, reinforcing negative stereotypes. Meanwhile, stories of innovation, leadership, culture, and everyday excellence in these same communities go untold. On top of that, there are very few Black-owned or Latino-owned media outlets in San Antonio with reach across the city. That means entire communities rely on institutions that may not see them, know them, or value their voices. Our recommendations: establish a community media incubator, a training hub for underserved youth in journalism, podcasting, film, and digital media. Equip them with the tools to tell their own stories and challenge dominant narratives. Second, create a media accountability index. This would monitor local outlets, track their representation of communities of color, and hold them accountable for fairness and accuracy. And third, expand partnerships with local universities to fund journalism fellowships for minority voices. By investing in future reporters, we ensure San Antonio's media landscape reflects its true diversity. Culture and community identity. Finally, culture. San Antonio's culture is its heartbeat. From the black churches that birthed civil rights leaders, to Tejano music that echoes through the West Side, to the food, festivals, and family traditions, culture is what makes San Antonio unique. But culture is fragile.
Welcome back to the Second to None podcast. Before we begin, we want to remind you to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your friends, and leave a review so we can keep growing this movement. Culture and community identity. San Antonio's culture is its heartbeat. From the black churches that birthed civil rights leaders, to Tejano music that echoes through the West Side, to the food, festivals, and family traditions, culture is what makes San Antonio unique. But culture is fragile. Gentrification, underfunding, and neglect put many cultural landmarks at risk. Historic black churches face closure. Latino murals are painted over. Spaces that once defined neighborhoods are being replaced by developments that don't reflect the people who built them. Our recommendations: establish a cultural equity fund to preserve historic landmarks, support creative industries, and invest in cultural programming for underserved neighborhoods. Second, protect cultural spaces through city zoning policies. No historic black church, Latino mural, or East Side landmark should be erased without protection or replacement. And third, create youth cultural leadership academies. These would connect young people with their cultural roots while training them as future leaders. Culture is not just about the past. It's about preparing the next generation to carry forward traditions with pride and purpose. Closing thoughts. Why this matters. Here's the truth. Equity is not charity. Equity is not a handout. Equity is a strategy. When underserved communities are given the tools to thrive, everyone benefits. Schools improve, neighborhoods stabilize, the economy grows, culture flourishes, and democracy deepens. San Antonio has the chance to lead Texas and the nation in showing how equity can be done right. This report is not the end of the story. It is the beginning. It is an invitation for policymakers, business leaders, educators, pastors, activists, and everyday citizens to come together and build a San Antonio that works for everyone. Because the future of San Antonio and of Texas depends on whether we choose to lift up the communities that have always been here, waiting not for charity, but for fairness, for opportunity, and for justice. And that is what the State of San Antonio's Underserved Communities 2025 is all about. Let's recap our summary of this report. San Antonio has long stood at the crossroads of history, a city shaped by resilience, cultural richness, and diversity. Yet, beneath the surface of growth and opportunity lies a stark reality. Underserved communities, particularly Black and Latino neighborhoods, remain excluded from the full promise of the city's prosperity. This report offers a roadmap to address these inequities. Drawing on community input, local data, and comparative research, we outline the barriers facing San Antonio's underserved residents and propose practical, actionable steps that policymakers, business leaders, and community advocates can take now. Key findings. Political representation. Despite being a majority-minority city, San Antonio's underserved communities are significantly underrepresented in decision-making positions. Voter participation rates remain lower in East Side and South Side districts, compounded by structural barriers such as districting and limited civic education. Economic opportunity. Black and Latino-owned businesses make up a large share of San Antonio's entrepreneurial fabric, yet receive a disproportionately small slice of city contracts and struggle to access capital. Gentrification has displaced legacy businesses and threatens generational wealth in historically Black and Latino neighborhoods. Media representation. Minority communities are underrepresented or misrepresented in local media. Positive community stories often go untold, reinforcing stereotypes and silencing authentic narratives. Cultural preservation. San Antonio's cultural heritage is rich, from historic Black churches to Tejano music and cuisine, but cultural landmarks face displacement and underfunding. Youth programs often fail to link cultural identity with leadership and civic engagement. Recommendations at a glance. Politics and policy. Create a San Antonio minority leadership pipeline to prepare future city leaders. Establish a city equity office to track representation and policy fairness. Expand voter education and access programs in underserved districts. Business and economics. Launch a community business fund dedicated to minority entrepreneurs. Reform city procurement to ensure fair access for minority-owned businesses. Support cooperative ownership and land trust models to build long-term wealth. Media and communications. Develop a community media incubator to train underserved youth in journalism, podcasting, and film. Publish a media accountability index to measure equity and coverage. Expand journalism fellowships for minority voices in partnership with local universities. Culture and community. Establish a cultural equity fund for preservation and creative industries. Protect historic landmarks in Black and Latino neighborhoods through city zoning. Create youth cultural leadership academies to bridge culture and civic engagement. Why this matters. The future of San Antonio and of Texas depends on whether underserved communities can share equally in the opportunities of growth. Equity is not charity. Equity is strategy. Empowering underserved communities strengthens the local economy, broadens the talent pipeline, and builds cultural pride that enriches the entire city. By starting in San Antonio, we lay the foundation for a model that can be replicated across Texas, from Houston to Dallas to Austin. This report is the first step in building a think tank that connects community voices with evidence-based solutions, ensuring that underserved Texans are not just participants in democracy, but leaders of it. If this vision speaks to you, subscribe to this podcast, share it widely, and join us in making equity not just a dream, but a reality. EquiThink is the new Texas think tank. We are the voices of the underserved, and together we are building a new path forward.